Hey, and welcome to the Meditations and Musings podcast. I'm Elena Lipson. I'm a mama, I'm a wife, and I'm the founder of the Divine Self-Care Circle membership and the Virtual Retreat Academy. I don't believe that you have to sacrifice your body, your health, or your family in order to create true abundance and prosperity. I believe in living based on the divine feminine metrics of success, and these include pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. Each week, I'll bring you 1 to 2 new episodes. One of these will be a guided meditation that you don't have to do on the meditation pillow, and the other will be a conversation to help you access your inner wisdom, to ignite abundance, and inspire others to do the same. I invite you to join me on this journey back to the magic of a divinely aligned and well cared for you. And now, join me for today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Meditations and Musings podcast. This is your host, Elena Lipson, founder of this podcast and my Divine Self-Care Circle, my amazing year-long program, which is actually so much more than a year-long program. We are now in our 4th year, and we have this beautiful, supportive women's community all around the feminine principles of self-care and the feminine metrics of success, pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace, which is really about trusting your own pace. So if you want to go fast, but it's about trusting your pace. And it is the month of self-care and sexuality in our circle right now. So I am so excited to continue moving forward, exploring the feminine metrics. And if you want to find out more about this, head on over to elenalipson.com and you'll see an entire tab page dedicated to the Divine Self-Care Circle. You can check it out there. So if you were with us last week for our last episode, you know that we dove into part 1 of the homeschooling and entrepreneurship journey, where we explored the before, the things that I went through in my mind, in my body, in my soul, as we dove into this homeschooling journey. And in this episode, part 2, I'm going to talk to you about the first year, like during the first year, and some of the things that really helped us to lean into the process, to enjoy it, honestly, right? Because aren't we supposed to enjoy our lives? And just some of the insights that I've gleaned. And then, of course, next week, we're going to talk about part 3 of the homeschooling and entrepreneurship journey and take some time to reflect on our first year and let you know what we're doing next. And maybe you're being inspired to do some things differently in your life. So I really, really hope that you are listening with an eye out for and an ear out for your own journey and how you want to do things your own way in this lifetime, because truly we are here to claim our voice, claim our desires, claim our way so that we can be this beautiful model for people around us and inspire them to do the same. Now, if you're not a homeschooling mom or homeschooling family, you are an entrepreneur or not, I think there's still so much to be gleaned from this conversation, because you are a human on a journey on this earth, and you have a spiritual element to yourself in your life, and there's going to be things that you do that the people around you don't necessarily accept or agree with or straight up disagree with. And it is up to you to find peace, alignment, and to reconcile how you feel about it so that you're not constantly defending yourself or feel like you have to. So I just want to do 2 quick things before we dive into part 2, which is I want to share another review that I got on the Meditations and Musings podcast. So if you have not left a review yet, I would be so thankful, because it helps to share this message with lots of other people. And of course, it just lets me know that I'm not talking to myself and that you're actually there. So I'd love it if you would just scroll down to the bottom of this page, click write a review, and just let me know what you think. And if you have a question and you want me to ask the question live on the next episode or future episodes, leave a question. I'm happy to do that as well. Or you can find me over on Instagram at Elena_Lipson. Message me there, and I'm happy to answer your questions. So that would be great. So this particular review comes from Hi Modern Lily, which is awesome. And it says, "Thank you, my muse. I make it a habit to listen to Elena's soothing and inspiring podcasts. Like everything she does, her musings and meditations bring me home to my center and send me into my world invigorated. Aw, thank you so much. That was so sweet. I just love it, and it keeps me coming back. It keeps me knowing that this is my soul calling and that I am actually inspiring you out there to make a difference, to follow your own heart, your soul, to be in your body, and to do all the things that we talk about here at the Meditations and Musings podcast. And we are looking at adding some guest interviews coming up very soon. So I'm making a list of people who are all about the feminine metrics of success and feminine leadership. So if you are someone who is that, or you are nominating someone, again, please message me on Instagram or send us an email to info@elenalipson.com. Okay, one more thing I'd like to share as just a gift to you is one of my favorite, which they're all my favorite, but another really, really simple sacred ritual, which is one of my 66 sacred rituals, is gratitude water. Gratitude water. It is the easiest thing. I do it all the time. It's like a foundational access point to the power of raising your vibration, your frequency, your mood with a simple thing as drinking water. So what I do is, now I know you're going to say I'm too busy, I don't have time, but I just want you to consciously try this a few times and just see how it feels. If it feels good, do it again. If you didn't like it, don't do it. So one of the sacred rituals that I share, and I give a longer explanation and a little bit more creativity and ideas around it when I teach it as the ritual within the course. But the basic foundational idea is that first thing in the morning when you pour your first cup of water, and I usually do warm lemon water. Sometimes I'll add some apple cider vinegar, some cayenne pepper, some maple syrup. Just depends. But usually at the basis foundation is my lemon water. And I squeeze fresh Meyer lemon into it and warm water. When I drink it, I don't just drink it mindlessly while I'm doing something else. I take it and I usually drink it in a jar, and I put both hands on the glass and I feel the warmth. And I take a moment and I just say, thank you for this clear filtered water, because, you know, there's places in the world where it's a massive luxury to have a glass of clean water. So if you are someone who is listening to this podcast and have access to clean water, I mean, holy cow, that is a place of gratitude to start from every day, right? So you take this glass of water and you just hold it by your heart. And you take a deep breath and you just say, thank you. Thank you for this clean water. May it nourish and support me today. And as you're drinking it, all you need to do, if you keep your eyes open, your eyes closed, I don't really care, it's up to you. Just say thank you with each sip. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I don't even have to think about it. Literally, when I'm drinking water, most times, even if I'm not home in the morning, I will just say thank you with each sip. So it's a really powerful practice to get into. And it's just one of the 66 sacred rituals that I teach, which is, you know, gratitude is like amazing because it helps you to get here and get present and be really in the moment and just to enjoy the most simple things and then get more of them because you're appreciating them. So if you want to know more about my 66 sacred rituals, head on over to elenalipson.com/66 days. And if you end up purchasing the 66 sacred rituals, then I want you to enjoy a coupon for $10 off as a gift from me to you. All you need to do is enter the word podcast as a coupon code on your way out of the checkout. If you have any questions, please, or issues, please contact us at info@elenalipson.com. Let us know. But it works every week, so it should be just fine. So enjoy that. Okay, let's hop in because we're getting raw, we're getting real, we're getting talking about homeschooling and entrepreneurship. I haven't talked about this before, and well, I have with the people who are close to me in my life, and now I'm talking about it with you. So again, even if you're not homeschooling, even if you're not an entrepreneur, there are things in your life that are going to require you to be more present, more honest, more reflective of your inner world, of your process, of your thoughts, of your habits. And so I want to share with you the 5 stages of during this year, this part 2 that we are dealing with homeschooling, running a business, actually running two businesses, having a marriage, still having a personal and social life. And so these steps are really simple, but these are the things that I leaned into as we were exploring the homeschooling thing. And it really felt like it changed as we went, because like when you're doing anything new, it's going to force you to examine yourself. It's going to force you to examine your thoughts and beliefs and ideas and preconceived notions and assumptions. And then, of course, if you have family or friends that disagree with you, that's going to make it even more stressful. So the first stage of this during the first year that was so crucial, important, was to trust the process and trust each other. So why is this so important? So just like any new thing, just like starting a new business, it's a process. You're going to not know anything right from the beginning. You're going to be learning as you go. So there's a philosophy that helps to adopt, which is, I trust myself, I trust the process, I trust you, right? So as my team Lipson, my son, my husband, and myself, and our support team, which is the teachers at the partnership and our family and those close friends to us who are sort of helping us, part of our little homeschooling team here, we have to really trust the process and trust each other if we're going to make this work. That means that if I have a doubt, if I have a fear, if I have something come up that makes me feel like, oh, I just don't want to homeschool anymore, I don't hold that in. I talk about it. I say, I don't like how that went. Maybe we can do things differently. That didn't work for me. Because just like entrepreneurship, just like marriage, just like parenting, if you are having doubts, if you're having resistance, if you're having fears, and you're not talking about them with the person who you need to talk about them with, you're going to build up a whole canyon of resentment. And that canyon of resentment is going to come between you and the person that you love most. And so, believe me, I've had this happen. I could do a whole other episode on radical honesty with my husband. I think I will. I might even invite him in for the episode where we talk about how our relationship transformed to such a depth and height of amazingness after we embraced the concept of radical honesty. Now, Radical Honesty is a book written by Brad Blanton, and I'll put a link in the show notes afterwards, but it really forces you. Now, we didn't adopt all the principles because I didn't agree with them, but there was a lot that I did agree with. And so it really, and this is probably a good 8-9 years ago where we started having this conversation where we just laid it all out. And I was really surprised that I had all these pent up resentments toward my husband. And I could see that if we hadn't addressed it at that point and I kept holding on to those resentments, I don't think that our relationship would be as amazing, as solid, as playful, as joyful as it is right now. And it took effort and it took consistent coming back to any held resentments. And this applies so deeply to homeschooling and to entrepreneurship. If I constantly did things that I didn't want to do in my business, I promise you, I would resent my clients, I would resent my coaches, I would resent the business itself, and it wouldn't last. And so the same exact thing applies to homeschooling. If there's parts of it that just aren't working for me, but I don't say anything and I get upset about it, I guarantee you when it comes time to reevaluate whether we're going to continue or not, I'd be like, hell no. So we are very honest with ourselves and each other in terms of, I trust that my husband's doing things with him that are his responsibility, and I am not there to critique or judge or teach him how to do it, and vice versa. But also, we are also there to call each other out on it. My husband is actually much more organized than I am. I keep wanting to hire him as my business manager, but he's a little busy. He's just super organized. So when I do homeschooling with my son and I don't document all the little things that he needs documented in his journal, he calls me out on it and I have to apologize. I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot. I'm sorry. I could really learn from him, and I do. So instead of feeling like he's trying to control me or he's trying to correct me, I have learned to be grateful for the advice because he's so organized. So I'm learning from him as we go. Now, the other piece is also trusting our son. As we decide what curriculum to do and what to focus on, if he's in resistance mode and I can tell he's maybe lacks confidence in something, I will definitely help him to work through that. But if he's super adamant, I don't need this, I don't want to do this, and it's not coming from a place of defensiveness, it's just coming from a super real, authentic opinion, then we make space for that. I don't want to homeschool out of anger. I want to create an environment where he's curious about learning and curious about exploring himself and curious about exploring topics. So trusting each other, trusting the process has been like my go-to mantra. Sometimes things don't work out as they were planned, and sometimes we decide to shift gears, and that's okay too. So that's stage one of being in it. Today we're talking about like being in the process. Trusting the process, trusting each other is stage one. Number two, learning to embrace the freedom of our days has been so huge. You have to constantly question your preconceived notions of how things are supposed to be. In part one, I had mentioned that I had to really rid myself of the notion that we are going to be recreating a school at home. That is not what I wanted to do. If I just wanted to put up a blackboard and stand in front of the room with chalk and teach him, why wouldn't I just leave him in school? The freedom of homeschooling is actually amazing. It's the reason why I started my own business years ago. It's the reason that my husband and I don't work 9-to-5 jobs. It's the reason that we value freedom in our life as one of our highest qualities and values. So now this has spilled over into homeschooling, which means that most days my son wakes up when he wakes up. If we have our enrichment classes over at the partnership 2 days a week, we know that we have to wake him up a certain time, but basically I come in and, say, hey, it's time to get up in a little bit. Why don't you, take your time, get up. I need you downstairs in 15 minutes, whatever. That's fine, but it's not this rushed environment anymore. So the freedom of our days means that we get to sometimes say, ooh, what do we want to do today? We don't have anything on the calendar. Let's go to the lake. Let's go meet a friend. Let's go just snuggle on the couch and watch a movie. I mean, it took me a while to really lean into the not knowing of that freedom, but it's something that I value at such a high level that now, while we're in it right now, it just feels so expansive and it feels so good. And sometimes if I have to do some work, then I just tell him I have to make a phone call. Why don't you go and, whatever. It's like everything gets woven into each other so beautifully now. I still have to be very careful of claiming my work time and my alone time and my workout time, which we do really well. We support each other. We respect each other in that way. But there's times where we're like, you know what, that class is not going to work because it conflicts with my Zumba class. And so we don't take it. So that's something that if I didn't do that and we're very honest about it, then it could force me to go into that resentment place. And I don't want to be there. So that stage two, that acceptance of that freedom and really leaning into it. And again, this is a journey. It's not a one and done. It's definitely a journey. Enjoying that freedom has been really, really powerful. Stage three is understanding that there will be intense joyful moments and there will be intense doubt. Intense joy and intense doubt. So in the middle of the joy and the doubt is, again, questioning my assumptions about how my son needs to learn for the future. I do not need to recreate my own childhood for him. I do not need to understand, everything about the next 15 years of his life in order to teach him now. I can just trust that there's going to be moments that it's working so well that I'm amazed and living in joy. And then there's moments where, I'm not sure. Are we really teaching him what we need to be teaching him? And being okay with that. Being okay knowing that I'm going to doubt the process. I'm going to enjoy the process and not moving boulders because of doubt, right? Just knowing that doubt is part of the process. And I have other moms and dads, we have this beautiful community now of people who homeschool. And I mentioned in the part one of this episode that one of the things that I did right away when I was pregnant, when I had our son, was find a community of other moms who have young babies, because you want to share the experience with other people who are going through it. It's why I have my Divine Self-Care Circle, because we are women on a journey experiencing life, and we are sharing this a very powerful support community. And so when it came to homeschooling, I have other moms that I can go to and share and get ideas from, which makes me feel less doubtful and more joyful. So that's a huge part of it. So number 4 is just embracing the fact that there's no need to explain myself to anyone. Now, unless you're my husband or my son or one of my dear friends, I don't need to explain myself to you, right? So I want you to take this kind of like this little bit of indignance and realize that you do not need to explain yourself to anyone. So if I'm constantly on the defensive, if I'm constantly explaining my choices to other people, it's probably because I'm still in a place of self-doubt. So my job is to get myself to a place of clarity, to a place of knowing why I'm doing something. Even though the doubt is part of it, I simply do not need to explain myself to everyone who asks me about homeschooling. I don't, unless I want to. I don't have to explain myself to people who don't agree with me. And so I'm giving you that permission as well. You do not need to explain yourself to people who don't agree with you. The only job that you have is to get super clear with yourself and with your inner circle, your spouse, your partner, your dear friends, your children, like those people that are affected directly by the choices that you make are the ones who are going to be the most important points of clarity for you. If you feel the need to explain yourself to everyone, you are going to get exhausted. You are just going to stop doing it, because doing things a different way, releasing ourselves from that social indoctrination that I talked about in part 1, comes with responsibility. And the responsibility is to yourself and to understanding why you're doing something, but being very, very honest with yourself. If you need a coach or a mentor or someone to talk through it with, that's a beautiful thing to do. And I do that as well. But feeling like you have to explain yourself to everyone just means that you have not gotten to a point of clarity and confidence for yourself. So take time to do that. Okay. And number 5, stage 5 of the present moment is just really accepting that it's a windy path. And I stay open to what it is teaching us at all times. So I know that we've made a choice in our lives, just like many other choices we've made in our lives, that goes against the social norm. And life is life. And even though we've made these decisions, that I understand that things change. Maybe my son, a year from now wants to go to public school. Maybe he's just done with homeschooling. And so we will explore that. Not any one of us makes the final decision. And my son is not the decision maker. My husband and I are. But we are also taking his opinions, his consideration into the process, because he's part of it, right? He's 12. He's going to be 13. He definitely does not rule, but he has an opinion. And the ultimate choice comes down to my husband and myself. But it is a windy path. So sometimes we think one thing might work and we try it for a while and it doesn't work. Like, for example, we started doing this jujitsu class. My husband does it. Now my son does it. It's twice a week. It's in the evening. It makes for 2 very late nights in our life. It's part of the freedom that we enjoy with homeschooling, but it's definitely a late night. So instead of fighting it, instead of yelling at him to go brush his teeth and get to sleep, it's hurry up, it's late, it's late. We just I embrace the process that it's going to be a late night. And I just take a deep breath and know that the next morning he can sleep in. And I just enjoy it. So if it changes, if it's not working anymore in a little while, then we will change it. It's going to be a windy path, but it always has something to teach us, whether it's patience or understanding that we need to find the joy in the pain sometimes, that sometimes it takes a while to come to a decision. I've become very patient with myself. Like, I don't need to know right now. Sometimes I can just let things unfold. And so this windy path of homeschooling and entrepreneurship is this beautiful mirror of how life is, that you're not always going to be, glittery, sparkly, rainbow, joyful. And sometimes it's going to be hard as hell. And sometimes it's going to be like, oh, can't we just do the easy thing? Instead of saying that, I've learned to say, how can this be easier? How can I make this more joyful? And really allow myself to look at things from all angles and to not just react. So I have learned so much during this year of homeschooling. I've learned, number 1, trusting the process and each other is the most powerful thing we can do. I've learned, number 2, to enjoy the freedom of our days, really enjoy it. And just to allow some of those boundaries to dissolve. Number 3, there will be moments of intense joy, moments of intense doubt. But as long as I have my grounding in myself and my spiritual practices, connection to my husband and my son, places where I can go and talk to other dear friends who are also homeschooling, then I don't feel so alone. Number 4, embracing the fact that I do not need to explain myself. That alone can change your entire life. And number 5, to understand that just like life, this is a windy path and it has something to teach me. So even if it's not going as I expected, there's still a lesson in it for me. And what a great gift. I can give that to my son too. Like, hey, didn't go as we planned, but what are some juicy bits we can pull from it? He doesn't like when I use the word juicy, but what are some bits of wisdom we can pull from it? So those are the 5 stages, the 5 lessons, the 5 points of wisdom that I use to navigate this homeschooling and entrepreneurship journey. Ooh, all right. I'm getting more and more raw with you guys. I'm sharing the behind the scenes of our life, and I truly hope that you are benefiting from learning my story, from really applying the points that you resonate with to your own journey, whatever that might be, whether it's homeschooling, entrepreneurship, relationships, parenthood, and anything in between. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your reflections, your feedback. If you want to leave a review here, that would be great. If you want to head over to Instagram at Elena_Lipson, that's ELENA, and leave me a message there. I'd love to know your thoughts on this conversation. And next week, we're going to dive into part 3, which is reflections on the first year so far. And I'll give you insight into our decision for next year, because we are waist deep in middle school now. So there's lots of different things coming up. So I can't wait to share all that with you. And I hope you have a phenomenal day. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts, reflections, feedback, and any questions you might have. You can leave those as a review as well. Take care of yourself and have a fabulous day. Thank you so much for listening and learning about the new divine self-care way of being in your life, business, and the bedroom based on the divine feminine metrics of success: pleasure, play, ease, grace, and a slower pace. If you're ready to bust the myth of overwhelm and tap into an inspired start to each day, I've put together a free video series for you to help you start each day with energy, inspiration, and ignite that inner pilot light which attracts joy, magic, and synchronicity. You can access my 3-step magic morning practice to help you ignite your inner light and attract the abundance that you're craving. Head on over to elenalipson.com/gift. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would so love if you share it with a friend, a sister, a mother, a daughter, and please leave a review. That is how the magic starts to ripple out. Here's wishing you a day full of beauty, magic, and divine self-care. I'll see you next time at the Meditations and Musings podcast.